NEC Section 334.80 applies to all Romex cable installations, no matter the application. It particularly addresses the issue of bundling when foam insulation is used. NEC Section 310.15b3 states that conductors entering a raceway or enclosure should not be bundled in such a manner as to reduce the capability of the raceway or enclosure to dissipate heat. NEC Section 310.15b3 states that where conductors are installed in a raceway or enclosure and enter or leave at different points, the raceway or enclosure should be sized to provide enough room for the conductors to be installed without crowding and without damage to the conductors. Based on these code requirements, it is generally recommended to avoid bundling more than 3 or 4 Romex cables together. This helps ensure the cables don't overheat and they are installed in a way that minimizes damage. When installing electrical wiring, understanding and adhering to the National Electrical Code, or NEC, is crucial. One common concern during inspections involves the bundling of non-metallic sheath cables, often called Romex. While the NEC doesn't explicitly define a bundle in terms of a specific number of cables, it does provide guidelines to prevent overheating and ensure safe installations. This information is designed to help you navigate the complexities of Romex cable bundling, addressing common questions and code requirements. The primary concern with bundling Romex cables is heat dissipation. Electrical current flowing through conductors generates heat. When cables are bundled tightly together, this heat can accumulate, potentially damaging the insulation and increasing the risk of fire. The NEC addresses this issue in several sections. Firstly, NEC Section 334.80 is often cited in relation to Romex installations. This section emphasizes the importance of derriting conductors when they are bundled and run through thermal insulation. Derriting involves reducing the allowable ampacity or current carrying capacity of the conductors to compensate for the reduced heat dissipation. The more cables that are bundled, the greater the derriting required. Secondly, NEC Section 310.15b3 further clarifies the requirements for conductors in raceways or enclosures. It states that conductors should not be bundled in a way that reduces the raceway or enclosure's ability to dissipate heat. This means that even if cables are not directly surrounded by thermal insulation, tight bundling within a confined space can still violate this code. Thirdly, NEC Section 310.15b3 addresses situations where conductors enter or leave a raceway or enclosure at different points. In these cases, the raceway or enclosure must be sized to provide enough room for the conductors to be installed without crowding or damage. Overfilling a raceway with bundled cables can restrict airflow and increase the risk of overheating. While the NEC doesn't provide a hard and fast rule for the maximum number of Romex cables that can be bundled, industry best practices and inspector interpretations generally recommend limiting bundles to no more than 3 or 4 cables. This guideline is based on the need to maintain adequate heat dissipation and prevent insulation damage. In situations where more than 4 cables need to run in the same direction, it's recommended to separate the cables into multiple bundles with spacing between them or to use other wiring methods such as conduit. If an inspector has flagged an installation for excessive bundling, there are several steps you can take to address the issue. One effective solution is to drill additional holes through the studs or joists to separate the cables. Spreading the cables out reduces the density of the bundle and improves heat dissipation. When drilling holes, it's important to follow the NEC guidelines for hole size and spacing. Overly large or closely spaced holes can weaken the structural integrity of the building. Another option is to run the cables at angles, as this also helps to distribute the heat more evenly. Avoid creating tight bundles that run parallel to each other for long distances. Instead, stagger the cables and provide space for air circulation. You might consider using cable ties or straps to loosely secure the cables, but avoid tightening them excessively. Tight cable ties can compress the insulation and impede heat dissipation. When planning your wiring layout, consider the overall heat load of the circuits. High current circuits, such as those serving electric ranges or air conditioners, generate more heat than low current circuits, such as those serving lighting fixtures. When bundling cables, it's best to avoid grouping high current circuits together. If you must bundle them, consider dirting the conductors or using a larger wire gauge to increase their ampacity. It is important to consult with your local electrical inspector to clarify any specific requirements or interpretations of the NEC in your area. Inspectors have the final say on whether an installation meets code, and their guidance can help you avoid costly rework. To summarize, while the NEC doesn't provide a specific definition of what constitutes a bundle of Romex cables, it does emphasize the importance of heat dissipation and avoiding overcrowding. A general guideline is to limit bundles to no more than 3 or 4 cables. If an inspector flags an installation for excessive bundling, consider drilling additional holes, running the cables at angles, and using loose cable ties to improve heat dissipation. Always consult with your local electrical inspector to ensure compliance with the NEC and local codes. Remember that electrical safety is paramount, and proper wiring techniques are essential for protecting your home and family from the risk of fire or electrical shock. By following these guidelines, you can ensure a safe and code-compliant Romex cable installation. The NEC specifies requirements for the ampacity of conductors, which is the maximum current a conductor can carry continuously without exceeding its temperature rating. When conductors are bundled together, their ability to dissipate heat is reduced, and their ampacity must be derated. The derating factors are specified in NEC Table 310.15b3. This table provides adjustment factors based on the number of current-carrying conductors in a raceway or cable. For example, if there are 4 to 6 current-carrying conductors, the ampacity must be derated to 80% of its original value. If there are 7 to 9 conductors, the ampacity must be derated to 70%. These derating factors are cumulative, meaning that if conductors are bundled and also exposed to high ambient temperatures, both derating factors must be applied. The NEC also specifies requirements for the size and spacing of holes drilled through wood framing members for the passage of electrical cables. The general rule is that holes should be drilled in the center of the framing member and should not be larger than 1/3 of the framing member's width. For example, a 2-inch by 6-inch stud should not have a hole larger than 2 inches in diameter. The spacing between holes should also be considered. Holes should not be drilled so close together that they weaken the framing member. As a general rule, the distance between holes should be at least twice the diameter of the largest hole. In addition to these general requirements, there are also specific rules for notching and boring wood joists. Notches should not be located in the middle third of the span and should not exceed 1/6 of the joist depth. Holes should not be located closer than 2 inches to the top or bottom edge of the joist and should not exceed 1/3 of the joist depth. These rules are designed to ensure that the structural integrity of the wood framing is not compromised by the installation of electrical wiring. The installation of Romex cables in attics and crawl spaces also requires special attention. In attics, Romex cables must be protected from physical damage if they are installed within 7 feet of the floor or floor joists. This protection can be provided by running the cables through conduit or by installing running boards along the cables. In crawl spaces, Romex cables must be secured to the floor joists or to running boards. The cable should also be protected from physical damage if they are exposed to moisture or rodents. When installing Romex cables in walls, it's important to protect the cables from nails and screws. This can be done by installing steel nail plates over the cables where they pass through studs or by using cable staples to secure the cables to the studs. The NEC also requires that Romex cables be supported at intervals not exceeding 4½ feet and within 12 inches of boxes and fittings. This support can be provided by cable staples, cable ties, or other approved methods. The proper installation of Romex cables is essential for electrical safety and compliance with the NEC. By following these guidelines, you can ensure that your wiring is safe, reliable, and meets all applicable code requirements. When dealing with electrical installations, safety should always be the top priority. Working with electricity can be dangerous, and it's essential to take precautions to protect yourself from electric shock and other hazards. Before starting any electrical work, always turn off the power to the circuit you'll be working on. Use a circuit tester to verify that the power is off before touching any wires or components. Wear appropriate personal protective equipment, including safety glasses, gloves, and insulated tools. Avoid working in wet or damp conditions, as water can conduct electricity. If you're not comfortable working with electricity, it's best to hire a qualified electrician. Electricians have the training and experience to perform electrical work safely and in compliance with the NEC. In addition to following safety precautions, it's also important to use the right materials and equipment for the job. Use only UL-listed products that are approved for the intended application. Use the correct wire size and type for the circuit you're working on. Use the correct size and type of circuit breaker or fuse to protect the circuit from overcurrent. When making wire connections, use approved connectors and terminals. Make sure that all connections are tight and secure. When installing electrical boxes, use the correct type of box for the wall or ceiling material. Make sure that the box is properly grounded. When installing lighting fixtures, follow the manufacturer's instructions carefully. Make sure that the fixture is properly grounded. By following these guidelines, you can ensure that your electrical installation is safe, reliable, and meets all applicable code requirements. Remember that electrical work should only be performed by qualified individuals who have the training and experience to do the job safely. The grounding of electrical systems is a critical aspect of electrical safety. Grounding provides a low impedance path for fault current to flow back to the source, which helps to trip the circuit breaker or fuse and to energize the circuit in the event of a fault. The NEC requires that all electrical systems be grounded, and it specifies the methods and equipment that must be used for grounding. The grounding system consists of several components, including the grounding electrode, the grounding electrode conductor, the equipment grounding conductor, and the neutral conductor. The grounding electrode is a metal rod, pipe, or plate that is buried in the ground and connected to the grounding system. The grounding electrode conductor connects the grounding electrode to the neutral busbar in the electrical panel. The equipment grounding conductor provides a path for fault current to flow back to the source from electrical equipment. The neutral conductor is a current-carrying conductor that is grounded at the service entrance. The NEC specifies different methods for grounding depending on the type of electrical system. For example, a separately derived system, such as a generator, must be grounded in accordance with NEC section 250.30. This section requires that the grounding electrode conductor be sized based on the size of the derived phase conductors and that the grounding electrode be located as close as practicable to the generator. The NEC also specifies requirements for the bonding of metal parts in an electrical system. Bonding is the process of connecting metal parts together to create a low impedance path for fault current. Bonding is required for metal raceways, metal enclosures, metal equipment, and other metal parts that are likely to become energized in the event of a fault. The NEC specifies different methods for bonding depending on the type of metal part. For example, metal raceways must be bonded using bonding jumpers or bonding bushings. Metal enclosures must be bonded using bonding screws or bonding straps. Bonding is essential for electrical safety because it helps to ensure that fault current will flow back to the source and trip the circuit breaker or fuse in the event of a fault. Without proper bonding, metal parts can become energized and pose a shock hazard. The NEC provides detailed requirements for grounding and bonding, and it's important to follow these requirements carefully to ensure electrical safety. If you have any questions about grounding or bonding, consult with a qualified electrician. They can help you design and install a safe and code-compliant electrical system.